How are you, Tasmin?
I'm good, thanks.
Yes. How has been this time with the lockdown and everything for you? I haven't seen you for 1 year, so I don't know how was the journey for you.
It was quite difficult to adjust. I think the second lockdown was harder than the first for me. But I think it was quite hard to find a routine at first, like with school and everything. But once you got into the routine and once you adjusted, I think it was better than like in the first few weeks where no one knew how long the lockdown was going on for. No one knew what was really happening, and it was just a bit chaotic the first few weeks of lockdown.
Mm. Okay, yes, I can imagine. What about you, Hector?
Hello. Um, for me, the for me, the first few weeks of lockdown, it was a pretty rough experience, which gradually got worse as you know the 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 death toll was increasing. So I was at the time, I was still doing school, going manually to school. So I always had this fear that I might contract the virus and pass it back. And, that fear was always lingering at the back of my head. I feel like after the first few months, I, began to adjust to it more. And yeah, it was something that was, it was something that took some getting used to, especially given some of the circumstances. Like at the time, I had a knee problem, which was, sort of it was really, affecting my mental health.
Mm.
It was affecting, even doing simple tasks such as even going to the college and back, because we had to pass train stations, go up and down stairs, which was painful. And yeah, it was really hard at first.
How much has changed your vision about the world, about life, because this situation? Do you think like, wow, yes, I feel more positive, or I feel I'm more worried about the future?
Well, personally, one thing that I love to do is animation. And before the pandemic, it was something that I was still doing, but I feel like I sort of lost my touch. But if there is like one plus, it's that, with lockdown, how we were all at home, it sort of gave me that extra boost, that little motivation to get back into it and really delve into my skills. And and animation is a career path that I would, definitely be interested in the future. So I do think in a way, some good came out of it. Like it was a positive impact in the sense that, I managed to grow closer to my love for animation, and I got to really improve my skills and ergo just improve my state of mind. Doing something that you love and
Mm.
getting better at it, it does make your day,
Absolutely, yes. What about you, Tasmin? Was a really big change?
Um, I think it really was a big change. Like even now, I really think what would life look like if the pandemic, if lockdown didn't happen? And it's just crazy to think that everything really would be completely different were it not to happen. Because I think I remember in the first in lockdown, I got really quickly burnt out. Like I got tired by just doing simple things that I would do on a normal basis, and I couldn't the things that I loved, my hobbies and stuff, they started to feel like chores. And so even now I still don't really do them anymore. I haven't really recovered since before lockdown. So it's I think everything has been different since lockdown?
I wonder, because I know you both and I know how creative you are, because I know you from the poetry group and you were writing amazing, you are still writing amazing poetry. I wonder if that creativity help you to go through this situation in some way, you know?
Yeah, I think it definitely did. I think I remember writing like poems or just writing in general whenever I was feeling really intense emotions, and it really did help me get through the difficult times.
What about you, Hector?
I honestly have to agree. You know, whenever I would like really feel down, I would, you know, do something like write how I feel. It just it's something really simple that you wouldn't think really works. I just did it for the sake of venting, because at the time I was just really harboring all these emotions, like, you know, feeling, you know, sad and, you know, angry and things like that. I wrote about them, and it, you know, it did help. It did help, you know, to just get it out there, to tell myself that, you know, these feelings, they are valid and they make sense given the circumstances. And I do believe in a way that creativity did help things get easier. I mean, like I mentioned before with the animation, with this as well. So yeah.
Amazing. Well, has your vision of the future changed as years go by? If so, how? You can answer, Tasmin, if you want.
Yeah, I think my vision of the future has changed a lot. I remember when I was younger, all I see in movies and books and media is like a certain type of lifestyle. And I thought when I was older, I would also have that type of lifestyle. But now I've realized that it's not like the 2000s anymore, and a lot of things have changed. Like for example, the casual sexism and racism in the movies that I grew up watching, they would not be acceptable to me if I lived in those circumstances. And even with like global warming and stuff, we'd have to keep in mind things like that as we go into the future. And I don't think that previous generations had the capability, and they didn't have to do that. So yeah.
That's so true. What about you, Hector?
If I'm gonna be honest, for the longest time, I honestly wasn't thinking about my future. You know, when I was younger, there were other things that I was more really thinking about, and it was only until like a few years back where, you know, I started really taking it seriously, I would say, you know, thinking about what my life will be in the future. And honestly, it's something that not even I'm, you know, really sure about. You know, one thing that I know for certain is that back then, on the rare occasion that I would think about these sort of topics, I would always, you know, all the careers that I would see on TV, I would be like, yeah, that's definitely what I'm going to be when I grow older too. So things that I knew nothing about, like being a chef or a footballer, or I don't know, an engineer, those were all sorts of things. I'm just throwing examples out there. But when I was young, these were the sort of things that I would always say that I picture myself in the future doing. I mean, now I can definitely see myself having a future, you know, dedicated to music and animation. And that's something steadfast that hasn't changed. And yeah, I guess in a way my vision has changed, probably more so than I first ever realized.
Okay, wow, thank you both. This is another question. What did you think was possible before, but now it doesn't seem that likely? I know it's quite tricky. What about you, Tasmin? I cannot hear you.
Hello?
Yes.
This is a very hard question. I don't really know the answer to this question. I think when I was younger, I didn't really know much about the world, and I still don't, but I used to think I knew everything. I think before I kind of just assumed that things would be better when I was older, like the world, in things like equality and issues in my area, like poverty and homelessness and racism. And I always just assumed that things would be better, but now I realize that it's not just going to be instantly better, like just over time. I realize that there has to be things that have to be done and that people have to stand up to do those things. And I guess I grew up and stopped being naive and stopped having like a very romantic view of the world.
Mm. Amazing. Thank you. Thank you. What about you, Hector?
This is an incredibly tough question. This is the sort of question you would see in some GCSE. I don't know, man.
Come on.
All right. I guess I'm not sure how much this relates to the question, but I think it does a bit, due to the fact that my view of the world certainly has changed. You know, when I was younger, I was always, you know, in a rush to be older. You know, I would think that things just get easier the older you are, because, oh man, when you're older, you don't have to go to school, man. You don't have to listen to every single person that passes you, man. Like these were sort of like immature thoughts, you know, at the time. And I remember, you know, always speaking about these sort of things, that I wanted to be older. I wanted to get older, like in my teenagers, because I feel like a life then will be easier. It's not. That's the first thing. It's not. It's much harder. You know, for the longest time, I was, you know, for the longest time, I was thinking about my past and, you know, how much I missed, you know, I don't know. I guess I missed being a kid in the way that, you know, they had this innocence, this innocent view of the world that, this innocent view of the world that sort of dissipates as time goes on and you grow older. It's just something that happens naturally.
Mm.
You
It
know,
shouldn't, isn't it? It shouldn't.
no, it really shouldn't, but
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm with you. Yes, it's quite sad actually, because obviously when we are young, we think like, oh, we idealize be older, you know, like, oh, I can be independent, I can do that one and that one. But actually, when you grow, you start to see that actually be an adult is also quite, I don't know, quite difficult. I mean, has coming with so many responsibilities and things that you start to be aware. Thank you.
it's harder, yeah.
That is okay. What do you think about the climate crisis? Do you think that one is the big crisis that we have in society?
Well, it's certainly prevalent. It's certainly something that shouldn't be taken lightly. You know, I mean, what can I say? You only got one planet, so
For now.
so yeah, for now. Like, so screwing up with this one probably isn't the best course of action. Is I do feel it's important, you know, things like global warming, you know, how the polar caps, you know, are melting. that's pretty crap. You know, that's something not, that's definitely something I feel like we should, this is something that should be brought to light more. That's what I think of it. It's definitely something that I feel like there are people talking about it, but there are not enough people talking about it.
Okay, okay, great. What about you, Tasmin?
I think some people might say that in the grand scheme of things, it probably is the most important thing, the most important issue that we need to tackle right now. So yeah, it's very important, and it really does depend on all of us. And not to get too political here, but
Come on, go. Be political.
I think that the developed countries like the UK and the US have a massive responsibility to make sure that developing countries have better education and better resources to be able to be global, to be global warming friendly. And I think that because, like, on the internet, people shame other people for like not buying sustainably and stuff like that, but then they don't realize that not everyone has not everyone has access to, and often buying sustainably is really expensive. And so I think when we're thinking about the climate crisis, we also need to think about intersectionality and just think about how not everyone can afford to be climate friendly.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's more complex than how the social media frame that one.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, the next one, that is quite interesting question. What do you think adults don't understand about young people?
I think something that needs to be said is that our generation is completely different to, I guess, the adults generation. Like, social media and the internet, they're fairly new and they have a massive impact on people's lives, and therefore we will be wired different, we'll behave different and act differently and have different thoughts and opinions to adults. And so I think that's
Do you think that one is the biggest difference, the access, how you interact with digital stuff?
I think it's up there because digital, like, stuff like this is digital. Everything really happens, well, a lot of things happen online now, and you can, especially with the pandemic and everything, you can learn basically everything online. And my generation probably completely surround themselves by online media, and some of it is bad, some of it is good. Media and digitalness, it doesn't really care about morals and ethics, and I think that's important to consider when talking about young people, I guess.
What do you think, Hector?
I think that this is a very interesting question, something that I've been pondering myself before this. And I think if there's one thing that I've noticed many adults don't tend to understand, is sometimes how mental health can affect young people. Many adults could see it as just some sort of edgy teen phase, when it can be something more than that. And I think shows like South Park and BoJack Horseman perfectly encapture this. You know, when I was going through, you know, some rough patches, yeah, some rough times, I was lucky enough that, my parents were there to listen and understand, these feelings, that these feelings of sadness and whatnot, they were natural. And given the circumstances like the pandemic and, stemming from how this sort of all started in 2018 and just went downhill from there, what I think people need to be just more understanding of how growing up can really, I don't know, just affect young people.
Yes. Yes, I was thinking when you were talking, I was thinking that actually both of you mentioning that when you are young, you idealize being an adult. And I guess it happened also in the other way around. Like we like an adults, we think like, oh, if you are young, you need to be a happy person. You don't have any problems. So how you are going to have a mental health challenge or something? No, you are young. So it's also working in the both ways, I guess. So we like an adults has to understand a little bit more about that one and understand that young people are also affected for all this kind of situation in a really deep way. Thank you. So here is the next one. What do you think young people don't understand about adults? You like to go first, Hector, or Tasmin?
All right. What do I think young people don't understand about adults? I don't know. I guess the fact that being an adult is so bloody hard. I mean, just the basic principle such as paying for the roof under your head. When you're a kid, you don't think about things like bills or taxes or rent. No, that all just goes over your head. Let's play video games. Where when you're an adult, you have to be, you have to be thinking about these things. You need to think how you're going. You need a job. That's the first thing. Second of all, you need a suitable accommodation for yourself and for your family. You need to think about the bread. What's gonna pay for the bread and butter. And it's work first, play later. That's how being an adult is like. I feel like adults rarely get free time to do shit because they've got to deal with these things first, the struggles that life has to offer, which played into what I was saying before, how when I was younger, I was being an adult is something I was always, talking about, that it was something that I want to happen as quick as possible. And now that it's now that I get older, now that I'm getting there, I'm understanding the struggles of adulthood.
What's it take?
Welcome.
Yeah, man. God.
Thank you. What about you, Tasmin?
I think, like Hector was saying, I think young people are quite have a romantic view of the world and are quite wishful thinking. And I guess in some way that's a good thing because we're young and this is our time to be not have a care in the world. And yeah, being an adult is really hard. Probably, I wouldn't know. And I guess my brother once told me when I was younger that people who are younger tend to be more left-wing and people who are older tend to be more traditional and right-winged. And I did not believe him at all until
No.
that he's probably true. Young people probably do think that they can be all radical and change the world. But when you get older, you realize you don't really have much of a control or power of the world. And I guess something that young people tend to do is hate on adults for accepting and normalizing this sad little world, but it's easier said than done.
Do you think Or you still have this idea that you still can change the world in some way?
I think we have to.
I love that.
Don't think we have a choice.
Mm. What do you think, Hector? You still have this idea that you can change the world in some way?
I mean, individually, not so sure. Sort of depends on what I decide to try and change about it. But yeah, I guess I could, you know, change is needed. So it's something that, you know, something that is certainly needed. It's just the problem is getting people to listen. That's the hard part. You know, figuring out what you want to change and how you're gonna do it. That's small potatoes compared to actually getting your voice out there and heard.
I know that that question could be quite silly, but I'm going to ask anyway. If you can change one thing in this world, what would be? One thing that you have the power now to change that situation, what would be? Could be Tasmin or Hector. Tasmin, have any?
I think I would make the people in power and people in power just, I would make everyone be heard and make the people in power listen to everybody.
Okay. What about you, Hector?
I don't know, man. If I could change, could it be anything?
Yes, could be anything.
All right, I'd tell COVID to get out. That's what I'd do.
Right now, yes. Well, I want to ask you something about the digital, the digital world. You know, I don't know if you heard about the metaverse and all this kind of stuff, or everything that is happening. It sounds now like the change that should be in 20 years is happening right now. You know, it's so quick. I guess because the pandemic, the COVID and all this kind of stuff is like now we are going so fast in the digital stuff. I wonder how you feel about that one. How you are, like Tasmin say, people like me, we knew the world when was not even a mobile, you know, when we didn't have access to mobile, to our, this kind of telephones and everything. But now, actually, you probably were born with a mobile. I mean, with a computer, access to all the digital stuff. So for you are not like missing something really. But at the same time, you can see that in the future, that one is going to be so different, so different. How you feel about that one and how you see that change? Could be Hector.
The fact that progress is happening so rapidly, it's honestly pretty shocking. I feel like if I was a few years older, I would have found it even more shocking because, you know, I would have predicted that, I don't know, these sort of changes, they would be, I remember making predictions that actual, you know, changes like this would be happening, and I don't know, in like the 2030s to 50s, something like that. But the fact that, you know, technology, you know, the metaverse is really, it's really boosted itself. And I think that's one, I think one reason for that is, you know, the pandemic. People have more free time, you know, people had more free time because we were all basically grounded at home for such a long while. And I think that made for some really good progress. I mean, while we're stuck at home, we might as well put that put that time to use, right? And I think that that time has been put to use very well, because the fact that we're seeing these changes happening right before our eyes, that is truly that's truly almost unthinkable. You tell a person a few years before, that things like this wouldn't be happening. You never know, they might have laughed in your face. It's really amazing to see how far we're coming.
Yeah, yes. What about you, Tasmin? How you feel about that one?
That one thing about technology that I would change if I could, I think it's going a bit fast, and I think there really should be some more regulation and rules about social media and stuff. Like, I think because we're young people, we're influential. No, we're easily influenced, and social media and media in general, it's just a massive place full of different information, and things like if the only people you see on social media are like skinny white people, just an example, then you'll probably grow up thinking that the only people, or like the only people worthy enough are skinny white people. And I think the social media could be improved, and the internet could be improved by having more regulations, I guess, and like things like lots of hate speech and bullying also happens online, and I guess it happens more online because it's easy to hide behind a screen. So I think that could be changed.
More regulations.
Yeah,
I think like you say, it's going so fast, you know, that actually it's going so fast that the regulation cannot catch up quick with what is happening. How both of you imagine how it's going to be? You know, I was talking with someone that actually with this kind of the metaverse that I have been reading a lot about that one, it's changing of perception about reality. I mean, you are talking with someone and you feel so comfortable talking with someone through the screen, and suddenly it's going to be three-dimensional and all this kind of stuff. So actually, I don't know where is the limit, you know, between the real things and the things that are happening online, but they are real, but at the same time not real like we know the reality. How we are going to perceive that reality? What do you think? How people can think what is true and what is not true?
That's a very hard question. Like, you know, earlier, like a couple years ago, there was a big thing about deep fakes. People were making deep fakes of like Obama and making him say stuff. Deep fake is basically like they take a picture of him and they edit it so it sounds like he's saying things that he hasn't actually said. And sometimes it looks really fake, but sometimes it can look really real. I think there should just be a warning when it's uploaded that this does not have accurate information, and this is not based on what the person has said, or like things like Photoshop, which contributes to bad body image for young teenagers and young kids. I think that should also come with a warning that it's fake.
Yes. The thing is how we know what is fake and what is not fake, you know, that one, I mean, for us, for the normal people that probably doesn't have access to so much technology, or just the very basic technology, so we cannot discover, you know, what is Photoshop or something like that. What do you think, Hector, how we are going to perceive reality with all these new technologies?
All right. Do you think you could rephrase the question one more time?
Yes, I wonder how we are going to perceive the reality. You know, what is real? How we can make the difference, to see the difference between what is real and what is not real with all these technologies.
I'm trying to think how to answer that. I mean, I don't know.
Because I think that one is one of the big questions with technology, you know, like what is real and how we really can.
Although I feel like technology is certainly coming a long way, I think I don't believe that it will get to the point where we'll have to decipher. It will be almost impossible to decipher what's real and what isn't. I mean, as it is now, I'm pretty sure I can decipher what's real and what isn't. So, you know, I don't know, Chief. It just doesn't feel like something that will be a problem in the future. You know,
Okay.
Things are going. It just doesn't feel like a very prevalent issue to me. I just don't see it as
So you think that we are still going to be aware about what is real and what is not real?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I don't think we're going to really lose that. There's no reason for us to do that. I mean, what? I don't think the power of technology is going to go to our heads to the point where we can't decipher these things. We as humans we move forward, not backwards.
I think you have something to say, Tasmim?
I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but I think one thing you have to think about is I'm talking about social media here, not like VR or anything like that. One thing you have to think about is a lot of the people on these sites are young children. Like my friend's 4-year-old brother has a phone and has social media, and these people probably have a massive imagination. They probably think everything they see is real. So I think if they grow up seeing only these things and they think it's real and no one's there to like tell them it's not real, then they probably will just assume it's real. And
I think that's why parents exist.
Oh, well, yes, that is a good point, but this is another thing, you know, that, for example, I can see many parents that just to calm down the child or something, just give the telephone, you know, like, oh, this, don't know, crying or something, or making a mess or something, that they just give the tablet and the children start to play, so they have like a distraction.
That is irresponsible. I mean, as a parent, you know, it's your duty to
You need to make a talk with the parents, Hector.
Well, hey, I'm just speaking of personal experience, because my parents ain't like that at all, man. They taught me the meat and potatoes. I don't know what you're saying. Like, nah, stop it, cuz, stop it. No, what was I gonna say? Yeah, I feel like as parents, you know, it's a parent's duty to guide their child through these things. I don't think a parent is going to, you know, have much trouble deciphering these things and explaining it to their children, because if you just leave children by themselves to their own devices, look, man, that's what every child wishes for, but in the grand scheme of things, in the long run, is that really beneficial? Because we may come across things that we don't quite understand, and we would need some clarification from an adult, you know, someone who's been around the block, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, cuz I think less responsibility should be shifted onto the children and what they see, and the parents should be there to guide them, explain to them these things. For God's sake, if it's going to a point where a kid can't decipher what's real, then maybe considering limiting their amount of screen time. I don't know, because it's seeming to be having a bit of an effect on them.
I think, yes, I think it's quite complex, you know, because yes, it's quite complex. I'm going just to leave it there. It's complex. Okay, I have another 2 questions. Extra questions that people that I was asking about what they wanted to ask you, they sent. How can the new generation contribute to a better world? Now, not when you're growing up, now. What do you think?
You know, that first question really plays into a previous question that was asked about about climate change. I'm seeing all these adverts, right? All these adverts, you know, about how action now, not later, not tomorrow, now, how action now is needed to because you don't really think about climate control or climate change in the moment. It's something that is like, you know, it's not affecting us yet, but in the long run, it's something that is really important and will affect our later generations. And I think a new generation, you know, a new generation could certainly, you know, contribute to improving the environment for the next generations to come. And I feel like one of the reasons that I say this is because a lot of the times when you see these adverts, the most prominent ones about climate change, I mean, they're you know, they're starring a lot of young people. And that goes to show that you know, we thought that it was just, you know, the oldies who were caring. No, the young people are stepping up too to this. I definitely think it's a group effort, and I feel like with a new generation, even what we have now will be enough to contribute to a better world. I think every day we have the potential to improve this world.
Good, thank you. What about you, Tasmin?
I think young people are really doing what they can to help create a better world. Like the friends that I know, I think, like young people, I know so many activists who are doing really what they can to just try make a better world. And you can, like, you know, Greta Thunberg and the Friday school strike, that was something fully done by young people. And I mean, it was quite shocking, but it got people listening. And even small things, like I think Hector was saying that there's like ads with young people about climate change, like things like Ecosia that plant trees every time you Google something. Young people can just use those and they will help make the world a better place just by changing something as small as that.
Yes, absolutely. And before I ask the question that is in the screen, I would like to ask, what is your opinion about the education system?
No.
Oh.
We're going into this, I see.
We can start with you.
I just want to say that my school is probably different to other schools because I am in a school where people did an exam when they were 10, and if they passed, they got into the school. I'm in a grammar school, and yeah, I think the education system has a lot of flaws. Like, for example, erasing in history lessons, erasing people of color from the mix, and even in lessons in like science, for example, like in biology the other day, we were learning about history of medicine, and it was just talking about the history of medicine in Europe. It was talking about Europe, like it discovered discovered honey was useful for treating flu, like in something century, whereas someone in Asia did it way before. People other people have done it way before. And something else with the education system is that it really is terrible for mental health. Like, even our school system that's in place for mental health is horrible. CAMS, which is the Child and Adolescent Mental Health Service, is also pretty bad. They're underfunded. Their advice is it's not very relevant to today's times, and the things they say, like, for example, oh, have a bath, drink a cup of tea. That's helpful for someone it could be helpful to some, but with someone who is actively in crisis and actively has a mental illness, it doesn't really help. Someone who needs medication and therapy, having a bath wouldn't really help in those circumstances. And I think the education system really further exaggerates mental health problems by putting pressure and anxiety onto people with exams and stuff. Obviously, not everyone feels that pressure and anxiety, but in my school, we do.
Wow, thank you. Thank you. What about you, Hector? What do you think about the education system?
Well, this is a very interesting question for me, particularly because I've been homeschooled since, year 3 up until now in college. Ho-hum, I still think I can formulate a pretty good response to this. From when I was homeschooled, I feel like there's this stigma, this sort of stereotype that, when kids are homeschooled, that they'll end up learning less than if they were at a real school. It must be, it must be something wrong with them. It must be like it must be a downgrade to go from good proper schools to homeschooling. I gotta say that's sort of a load of dookie, because I've learned things being homeschooled that I would not have learned if I was still staying in my old primary school. Like, and the things I've learned are life skills that really carried on until I went to college, where now I study creative media production. So although I can't say too much about the education system for the longest time since I've been homeschooled, from what I can't say, I can't say I have too many qualms as of now, but from the experience that I've had, how do I end this? Bro, I don't know where I was going with that, but you get my point.
Thank you. I wonder if before I ask the last question that is in the screen, I want to ask another one, if you are okay with that one. Do you feel positive about the future?
Oh, yes.
Do you feel that it's going to be okay? We are going to be okay.
For the longest time, ever since this pandemic, from when the pandemic started, I was having, doubts. I was thinking, bro, is there even gonna be a future, or I'm gonna be dead before then because of this damn coronavirus? Like, come on, man. Like seriously, for real. And I was always thinking that I could pass it on to my loved ones. And this is the sort of stuff that kept me awake at night. I was having sort of nightmares, even panic attacks. Bro, trust me, that's not stuff you want to be dealing with, because that is some nasty stuff. And during that time, I was very pessimistic, I would say. I was feeling like, after this, there's gonna be there's really not gonna, I couldn't see a light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know if that was the best way to phrase it, but I couldn't see a light at the end of the tunnel. I couldn't see that things would be getting better, but I had to endure it, man. I endured it, you know, with the help of my parents, they were very supportive, lovely people. um, um, and, you know, it did get easier. It got easier for me to see the light, to see that there is a future, that there is a future for all of us, and that we are in charge of our own futures. Way that if you play your cards right, you can really do and be whatever you want to respectively do and be. And you know, I think like I feel like this pandemic has really, I don't know, it just rekindled my love for animation. And although I feel like I knew this before, it just solidified the fact that this is something that I would like to center my life around, alongside music when as I mature and grow older. I see animation and music as my future, you know, and the activities that I spent my time doing during in lockdown, just the little things helped me realize that.
Amazing. Thank you, Hector. What about you, Tasmin? Do you feel positive about the future?
I personally think that I don't think that we can think positively. We can't think that it's all gonna be fine without like having a plan to make it fine, because we can't just wish for the best without doing anything to make it better. And I think just like winging it isn't going to get us anywhere, and people aren't doing things to make it better, they can't expect things to be better. It's quite a pessimistic view, but I also think that we can make it better if we tried. So
great. I'm going to ask the last question, but I want to change a little bit the question that is in the screen. I would prefer to ask you to say something to everyone, and because they say, what would you like to say to the old people? But what about if you can imagine that you have access to reach so many people in the world and say something that you really want to say to them? What would you say to them? Whatever, it could be something big, something small, whatever you want to say. If you think about that, you are going to reach a lot of people, that I wish with this video we are going to have a lot of people that is going to see the video. So what would you say to them?
that's also a hard question. I think I would say thinking a lot about the past and lockdown and stuff. I think a lot of my friends and we got really easily burnt out and tired because we were pushing ourselves too hard with like schoolwork and stuff. Because when we're at home without a routine, it was really tough. So I think try your best, and if you're trying your best, you're doing fine, you're doing great. So
great. What about you, Hector?
I would say appreciate every little thing in life, and, you know, savor the moment that you have now. You know, really take that extra moment to acknowledge and, you know, I'm trying to think of the word. Leave it. Acknowledge your loved ones, the people around you, because I don't know, very, very soon, you know, you never know how long these things will last. Okay, that's a really cryptic way to look at things, but look, that's just look, man, my main message is to, yeah, appreciate and be grateful and savor what you have now. And you know, if you're a youngster, man, look, give your old people a break. They going through some stuff, man. You have it easy, man. You life gets harder the older you get, I feel. And it's important that during your darkest moments, you know, when you know you feel like the whole world is crashing down on you, you just realize and appreciate the people and things that make you happy.
Thank you. Wow, both of you beautiful. I feel extremely privileged to have you and actually to witness how you are growing. I don't know. I cannot imagine being more grateful of having both of you here. Thank you so much. I don't know if someone have a question, or we have Charlene here. We have Karina Shah, a great friend that is also working with young people. So I don't know if some of you want to ask something. Hello, Karina. Oh.
Hi, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing your perspectives. I don't know if you touched on creative expression and poetry in relation to the future. Because obviously I know you guys from the poetry group. What do you think about creative expression, you know, in the future? Are we going to be more creative or less creative?
Oh, Cara. You like to go first, Tasneem?
I think as things get I think I'm frozen.
Yes, you are.
Oh.
No, it's okay.
I think as we get more advanced and technologically advanced, I think there'll be brand new forms of expression and creativity, like animation. That was a pretty recent thing. And so I think we'll always be creative. That's human nature. And as we come with more forms of creativity, I think that we will get more creative.
Thank you. What about you, Hector? What do you think?
Exactly. As you know, basically took the words out of my mouth. Now I don't know what to say. Golly. But yes, I believe, yeah, as time goes on, I don't see any reason for us to just go back and become less creative. I definitely believe as technology is advanced, there will be new forms new ways for us to express ourselves. And animation is something that's been around for a very long time, with the first animation tracing back to like 1832 or something. Check it out, pretty cool stuff. And you can take that as an example and see how, as time had gone on, it went from short little animatic films in black and white to intricate, thought-provoking pieces of work that we really have learned to appreciate. Bro, I don't know why my camera is making me look like I have a black eye, but that we've learned to appreciate, such as shows like I know I keep referencing it, but shows like South Park, or like I'd even say the older seasons of Family Guy. You know, as time goes on, yes, there's definitely a reason for us to become even more creative than what we are now, which was already quite a lot to begin with.
Wow, thank you very much